Lao Tzu begins with a quiet shock. The Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. In a world that insists on loud answers and clear labels, an old master opens by saying that the deepest way cannot even be put into words. Yet somehow, across centuries, his soft voice still reaches you. Here, in this ordinary evening, Lao Tzu means old master. Some say he was a real person. Some say he is many wise voices woven into one. Either way, the Tao Te Ching, only about 5,000 characters long, has been copied, translated, and whispered over 1,000 different ways. People keep returning to it because, beneath all the versions, there is the same feeling. A calm presence in the middle of noise. A reminder that peace is not somewhere else. You are not meeting him in a temple or a mountain cave. You are meeting him tonight, exactly where you are. Perhaps you have had a day of grasping and effort. Too many messages, too many decisions. The mind still spinning long after the body is tired. You lie down, but the day does not lie down with you. It keeps talking. We are taught that the solution is more effort, more information, more control. But Lao Tzu suggests something almost rude to our habits. You may not need more at all this evening. You may only need to do less, want less, and gently stop fighting life for a while. We often feel we are missing some secret piece to the puzzle of our peace. But the truth is simpler. Everything inside us is simply clenched. Imagine instead that you are spending one quiet night with Lao Tzu himself. He sits beside you like a kindly, weathered grandfather, not preaching, just reading short verses into the air. Your room does not change. Your life circumstances do not change. But as you listen, you notice small shifts. The shoulders soften. The jaw loosens. Thoughts still come, but they do not bite as hard. The Tao Te Ching is not a book of commands. It does not say, be this, do that, believe me. It offers images, water that overcomes rock by yielding, a tree that survives the storm by bending, a ruler who leads by stepping back. These are not orders. They are soft invitations to let go of strain, to return to naturalness, to discover that you do not build the ease. You uncover it. Nothing whatsoever should be clung to, not even to this sentence. When we stop disturbing it, the mind has its own taste of stillness, like a pond that clears when no one is throwing stones. Over the next couple of hours, we will move through the Tao Te Ching verse by verse with gentle reflections. Each passage will untie one small knot of anxiety, one habit of pushing, one old story of not enough yet. Gradually, almost shyly, a quieter, more spacious inner landscape appears. For tonight, you do not have to reach for it. Just relax, settle in, and take a slow, deep breath. Let the old master read, and allow this evening to become a quiet promise in a loud world. So before we walk any further with the old master, let us arrive where you are. This is an evening for you. No one else. Nothing to perform. Nothing to prove. You do not have to understand every verse or remember every phrase. For now, you are simply invited to be here in this ordinary moment, exactly as it is. Notice where you are listening from. Perhaps you are in bed, one lamp still on. Perhaps you are on a sofa or in a small kitchen, the day finally loosening its grip. Perhaps you are wearing headphones in the dark. However it is, allow this next while to be just for you, like closing a door gently and leaning your back against it with a quiet sigh of relief. You do not need to know much about Lao Tzu or Taoism or Buddhism. Many people have read the Tao Te Ching for a lifetime and still say, I am only beginning. This is not an exam. There will be no questions at the end. The only requirement is a simple willingness to listen and to gently feel, to let the words wash past you the way waves slide up the shore and fall back again. So, let us settle the body. Let your body soften into the surface beneath you. Feel the air come in through the nose, cool or warm. Feel it leave again, without you having to push it. Notice the weight of your body being held by the chair, the bed, the floor. Nothing for you to hold up. For a few moments, let the earth do the work. Soften the jaw. Let the tongue rest. Let the shoulders drop a little, as if someone quietly removed a heavy bag you had forgotten you were carrying. If the forehead is tight, smooth it from the inside. Let the eyes rest, whether they are open or closed. If they are open, let the gaze be soft and unfocused, as if looking through things instead of at them. Here on this channel, we keep a simple ritual, an evening greeting. Thank you for trusting me with your night. Thank you for allowing these teachings to sit beside you like a calm friend. You may use this as a companion for rest, or let it carry you into sleep. If you drift away, that is not a failure. That is the point. The pacing tonight will be slow on purpose, repetitive on purpose, soothing on purpose, like listening to rain on the roof, or a river that does not hurry, and yet somehow always arrives. You are free to drift in and out. You do not need to follow every word. The teachings work underneath the thinking mind. As we move into the verses themselves, we will let Lao Tzu show how that uncovering happens, one quiet image at a time. So before we sit with the verses, it helps to ask a simple question. Who is this Lao Tzu whose words have circled the world and are now circling your evening? The honest answer is already a little Taoist. We do not really know. Lao Tzu is not a personal name. It means old master. It could be one man, a small circle of quiet teachers, or a legend woven slowly out of many voices and many winters. Some scholars see hints of an archivist at a royal court. Others see a poetic mask that allowed a whole tradition to speak in one gentle, anonymous tone. The Tao itself does not seem bothered by which version is correct. The old story is simple, almost too simple for our taste. An elderly keeper of records, tired of noise and politics, decides to leave the city. He rides a water buffalo toward the western border, moving away from rank and argument and toward the open, empty land. At the pass, a border guard recognizes something in his bearing and refuses to let him go until he writes down his wisdom. The old man agrees, stays a few days, writes a short book, hands it over, and disappears into the hills. That small book is the Tao Te Ching, not a thick volume with elaborate doctrine, but about 5,000 characters, arranged in 81 brief chapters. Each chapter feels more like a small bowl of rice than a heavy banquet of philosophy. You read one, you put the bowl down, you feel a quiet fullness that is hard to name. Then you notice you are still a little hungry for the next one. We are used to spiritual stories filled with thunder, prophecies, miracles, punishments, rewards. The Tao Te Ching does not play that game. Its pages are mostly images of water, valleys, doors, windows, and uncarved wood. It praises what bends instead of what breaks. It points to what yields instead of what conquers. It is a teaching that seems almost shy. We expect the way to arrive with fireworks, but the Tao keeps turning our eyes back to what is utterly ordinary. Breathing, walking, drawing water, closing a door softly at night. It suggests that peace appears when grasping loosens for a moment, when we stop insisting that life be other than it is, a very old, very quiet, Intelligence begins to shine through the most ordinary gestures. In that sense, the plainness is the point. The way is not hidden behind a secret gate. It is hidden in what you are already doing, in how you stand in a line, how you speak to a tired cashier, how you let go of a small complaint before it hardens. Take a quiet moment now. In a breath or two, we will step into the first verses and meet this old master where he has always been waiting, in the gaps between your thoughts, and in one image that may stay with you long after the words fade. So let us meet this image Lao Tzu offers again and again. He calls it the Tao, the way, the path beneath every path you have ever walked, including this quiet evening, including this very breath. He begins with a warning. The Tao that can be spoken is not the constant Tao. In simple language, this means whatever you can define, you have already made too small. The Tao is not a god to worship, not a distant ruler in the sky. It is the underlying flow of life itself, the way water always finds the low ground, the way a seed knows how to open without being taught. If that sounds mysterious, notice how ordinary it actually is. When rain falls on a hillside, it does not hold a meeting to decide which way to go. It simply follows the shape of the land. The Tao is that quiet tendency in everything, to move, to change, to seek balance without fuss. You are not separate from this. Your body, your moods, your thoughts are already moving in that same field of forces. Lao Tzu's teaching is surprisingly plain. It is not a complicated spiritual recipe with rare ingredients and secret spices. It is more like a simple plate of warm, nourishing food placed in front of you. Nothing fancy, nothing to impress the neighbors, yet exactly what the body needs. The way is like that, simple, direct, almost disappointingly available. The struggle arises because we keep fighting this simple flow. Life moves one way, and inside we lean the other. A plan changes, someone disappoints you, your own body will not obey, and there is a subtle tightening, a small inner protest. It should not be like this. That protest has a mechanism. It is not only in thoughts. It shows up as a stiff jaw, a held breath, a chest that will not quite soften. Tiny acts of grasping and resistance, repeated all day. The mind argues with what is already happening, and the body quietly joins the argument. The solution is not to win that argument. It is to notice it and gently step out. In Taoist language, to return to the way you are already walking. When we cease our constant interference, the same intelligence that guides water down the mountain begins to guide your responses, your speech, even your pauses. Think of learning to swim. You could read 10 books about floating, memorize every stroke, study diagrams of the perfect kick. But the first time you step into the pool, the mind's plans do not hold you up. The water does. You feel its cool support on your skin. You test how it holds your weight, and slowly, you realize that the more you thrash, the harder it is. The moment you soften, you begin to float. Understanding the Tao is like that. You cannot think your way into it. You must feel how life is already carrying you, even now. There is a strange relief in discovering that the river has been moving all along, even while you were busy pretending to push it. Here is the small movement we will return to, again and again tonight, noticing where you are straining, in the brow, in the throat, in the story about how this moment should be. And then, as an experiment, loosening your grip by 1 degree, not collapsing, not giving up, just one soft exhale of resistance. Pattern interrupt. As you listen now, see if you can find one place in your body that is working harder than it needs to. Do nothing about it for 3 breaths. Simply notice. This is how the Tao is learned, not in grand vows, but in tiny, merciful shifts of tension, into trust. In the next verses, Lao Tzu will show how this way shapes leadership, love, and even failure. For now, it is enough to feel the water under you and to sense that you do not have to thrash quite so much. Lao Tzu gives this thrashing a name. He calls the alternative Wu Wei. Often translated as non-action, it is better heard as non-forcing, as effortless action, not laziness, not drifting. It is the kind of movement that feels like the right gesture at the right moment, without inner struggle, without that tight voice inside saying, push, hurry, control. The friction is familiar. You wake up and reach for your phone before you reach for your breath. Emails, messages, news. You start answering things that are not truly asking for you. The day becomes a chain of small compulsions, refreshing inboxes, chasing productivity, trying to stay ahead of a wave that never really breaks. By evening, the body is tired and the mind is thin, but the hand still twitches toward one more check. We think this is how life must be managed, always one step ahead, always optimizing. But notice the cost. The more you try to control every outcome, the more life begins to feel like a fragile project that could collapse at any moment. There is very little peace in this, very little ease. The Tao Te Ching whispers a different teaching. Nothing whatsoever should be clung to, not even the image of yourself as endlessly capable and endlessly productive. Wu Wei points to a simple mechanism. When you act from fear and tightness, you create friction. You say yes when the whole body is saying no. You answer now when later would be wiser. You grip the steering wheel of your life so hard that the journey stops feeling like movement and starts feeling like strain. When you act from alignment with the actual situation, when you respond to what is really here, rather than to your anxious fantasies, things often unfold with less resistance, as if they were already leaning in that direction, and you simply joined them. Think of a patient farmer. They prepare the soil, they plant the seed, they water, they keep the weeds from choking the tender shoots. They do what is needed, then they stop. They do not pull on the sprouts to make them grow faster. They do not shout at the sky for more sun. They trust the seasons. They understand that growth is a partnership between effort and timing, between care and the vast processes they do not control. Let one image from your own life appear, as if you were standing at the edge of your own field. Where are you pulling on sprouts? A relationship you keep trying to fix in every conversation. A career step you jab at from all angles. Your own mind, scolded all day for not being calm enough. Feel how exhausting that grasping is, even in this moment. Now imagine Wu Wei there. You still show up. You still speak, apply, practice, tend. But you do the next clear, ordinary thing. Then you stop disturbing it. You let the email rest after sending. You let the other person have their mood. You let your meditation be exactly as noisy or as quiet as it is. You allow the natural flow to reveal itself. In the next verses, Lao Tzu will turn the same art toward power and success and show why the softest way can shape the hardest problems, including failure itself. So let us not only talk about this softness, let us feel it. The Tao Te Ching is not meant to stay on the page. It is a teaching that wants to be tasted in the body, in this very moment, in the most ordinary details of your day. Settle back into your space. Let the next exhale be a little longer than usual. You do not have to change anything. You are simply going to notice. The medicine is to feel the difference between forcing and flow from the inside. First, bring to mind a recent situation where you were pushing hard. Perhaps you were in an argument, trying to prove your point. Perhaps you were up against a deadline, squeezing your mind for one more idea. Perhaps you were trying to impress someone, measuring each word. Let one of these scenes appear, as if you are quietly watching a short film of yourself. Now, step into that memory. Notice what happens in your chest. Does it tighten as if the ribs are closing in a little? Notice the breath. Does it become shallow, high in the throat, almost as if the body has forgotten that the belly can move? Notice the thoughts. Do they race and circle like birds that cannot find a place to land? If you look closely, there is also a subtle sense of swimming upstream, as if life is moving one way, and you, with great effort, are trying to move the other. This is grasping. This is the body believing that everything depends on you holding on, controlling, pushing. There is very little ease here, even if you succeed. Now imagine the same situation with just 10% less effort. Not giving up, simply softening. See your shoulders drop half an inch. Feel the breath slow down as if it remembers the way home. Words become fewer, but a little truer. You allow silence to do some of the work. You trust that not everything must be fixed right now. As you picture this, notice the micro changes. The jaw that was clenched begins to loosen. The belly, which was pulled in and armored, lets go a little as if it has permission to exist. The mind, which was a crowded room, feels a tiny bit more spacious. No miracle, just a small, almost invisible relief. This shift is a taste of Wu Wei, not a mystical trance, an ordinary moment when you stop insisting on a specific outcome and let life move with you, not against you. You do not build the ease, you uncover it. In a moment, Lao Tzu will carry this same feeling into how we act in the world, and you may discover that this 10% softness can change something far larger than your jaw or your breath. So now, Lao Tzu turns your attention outward to how you move in the world. He does it with one of his simplest images. He says that nothing in the world is softer or more yielding than water, yet nothing surpasses it in wearing down what is hard and strong. On the surface, this sounds poetic, but a little unrealistic. We are taught that power looks like armor, like constant confidence, like never showing doubt, never bending, never backing away. The heroes in our stories clench their jaw, steel their nerves, and push through. But the Taoist teaching admires something quieter, humility, flexibility, a kind of gentle endurance that does not need to announce itself. Think of a single drop of water falling on stone. One drop does nothing. The rock does not even notice. 10 drops, 100, 1,000, still the stone seems unchanged. Yet if the water keeps falling in the same place, day after day, year after year, the rock is slowly carved. A small hollow appears. A channel forms. Where brute force would only shatter and break, the softness of water creates a path. We live in cultures that celebrate the rock and quietly distrust the water. We are praised for being tough, decisive, certain, even when we are exhausted and unsure. We are rarely praised for yielding at the right moment, or for changing our mind, or for saying, with simple honesty, I do not know. Yet these are the movements of water. Notice how this plays out inside your own emotional life. When pain appears, the usual habit is to tense against it. You tighten the chest, harden the stomach, and add a layer of self-criticism on top of the original hurt. The mind says, this should not be here. I should be over this by now. The stone meets the stone. There is impact but not much peace. Water responds differently. It surrounds. It allows. It does not argue with the shape of the rock. It simply flows around it, over it, through every small opening that is already there. When you meet your sadness or fear in this way, you are not giving up. You are letting go of the extra grasping and resistance that keep it frozen. Over time, the hard knot begins to soften. You feel small moments of relief, as if tiny channels are being carved in places that once felt solid and stuck. a brief pattern interrupt now. Instead of thinking about this as a nice idea, quietly ask, where in your life have you been trying to be stone? Perhaps in a relationship where you always have to be right, at work, where you cannot admit limits, in your spiritual practice, where you try to force yourself into calm. What might shift if, just in one ordinary situation, you allowed yourself to be water? Instead, by letting go of the demand to be hard all the time, you allow true resilience to surface. In the next part of this evening with Lao Tzu, we will follow this same image of water into action itself and see how softness can guide not only how you feel, but exactly how you speak and move through your day. So far, Lao Tzu has shown you how water can move through the world without strain. Now he offers another quiet image, just as simple and just as radical, the uncarved block. In the Tao Te Ching, this plain piece of wood, not yet shaped into anything useful, stands for your original simplicity. Before you become something, you are already whole. Imagine a solid block of wood resting on a workbench. It is not yet a chair or a spoon or a statue. It has no special name, no narrow purpose. It can become many things, but right now it is just itself. There is a kind of peace in that. Nothing to prove, nothing to defend. Lao Tzu suggests that we begin like this, simple, open, unfixed. Then life arrives with its tools. Family expectations pick up the chisel. School brings the ruler and the measuring tape. Work arrives with the saw. Little by little, the block is carved into shapes that others recognize and reward. You become the professional, the reliable one, the parent, the achiever, the caretaker. Each role is like a new angle cut into the wood, useful, often beautiful, sometimes necessary. But with every cut, the object becomes more defined and less free. The exhaustion begins when you forget that they are just roles. When you over-identify with the carved shapes, you lose touch with the quiet, uncarved core. You start to believe you are only the worker, only the helper, only the strong one who must never fall apart. The more tightly you hold these identities, the more grasping and tension appear. Think of a day when you were juggling tasks and faces. At work, you were efficient and sharp. At home, you were patient, or tried to be. With friends, you were light and easy. Then, perhaps late at night, there was a moment when all of that dropped away. You sat on the edge of the bed, or stood at the window. No role to play for a few breaths, just a human being, breathing, like a stone, resting in a field or a tree, standing in the dark. If you notice that moment closely, there is a small but unmistakable relief. This is what Lao Tzu is pointing to. There is a simple being underneath all the doing. You do not build the ease, you uncover it. The uncarved block is not a new self you have to construct. It is what remains when you gently set down the costumes and names, even for a short while. The Tao Te Ching keeps inviting you back to this ordinary, unstructured presence, not as a grand spiritual event, but in small pauses when you are not performing, not proving, not quietly rehearsing your next move. In your next exhale, you are closer to the uncarved block than to any title you carry. Later, verses will return to this image in a different way. They will show how letting go of fixed identities and firm opinions brings you nearer to this quiet center, and how living from there changes the way you speak, decide, and act. For now, it is enough to sense that beneath every shape you play in the world, something simple is still here, waiting, untouched. Beneath every shape you play in the world, something simple is still here, waiting, untouched. Taoists give that simplicity a name. They call it the Tao, the way. The Tao is not a road on a map. It is the quiet order, the living current that runs through everything, when we stop disturbing it. When you heard about Wu Wei earlier, this was one way of pointing to it. Wu Wei is non-forcing. It is action that does not fight the river. You still move, you still care, but the grasping eases, and with it, a certain tight effort falls away. Now another word appears beside these two, Ziran, often translated as naturalness, or so of itself. At first it can sound like a big mystical code word, something you have to study for years before you're allowed to understand. Yet the teaching is much softer than that. It is pointing to experiences you have already had, perhaps many times, and passed by without a name. Ziran is the way a flower opens. No meeting, no schedule, no 5-year plan. Petals unfold, because that is what petals do. Ziran is the way your breath comes and goes when you are not trying to fix it, deepen it, or improve it. Chest rising, chest falling, with no manager in the background. This is not laziness. It is spontaneous, unself-conscious functioning. Life doing what life does. Think of a moment today that went surprisingly smoothly. You reached for a cup and did not have to calculate the angle. You answered a simple question and did not rehearse 10 versions in your head. You walked across a room without narrating every step. Nothing special, very ordinary. Yet there was no strain, no inner commentary, no one taking credit. That small, quiet ease is a taste of Ziran. We overlook this naturalness because we are busy trying to improve the moment. We decorate, correct, and tighten. We believe peace comes from better control. But Ziran is here whenever control softens. Let this be a simple practice for the rest of this day. Gently remember, somewhere, something is moving on its own, without your supervision, your heartbeat, the wind in the trees, a conversation that flows without effort. When you notice this, even briefly, there can be a small but real sense of relief. Nothing whatsoever should be clung to. Ziran shows one reason why. When grasping, tension, and self-judgment loosen, even a little, the Tao's way of moving is already present. It has been here from the beginning, quietly offering to carry you. In the next verses, Lao Tzu will press this further, asking a daring question. What happens when even your idea of being the doer begins to fall away? So let us answer that daring question with a story, not in the sky of ideas, but down on the ground, in an ordinary modern city, with an ordinary man who tried very hard to be the doer of everything. He was a river engineer. His job was to keep the city safe. The river that ran through it had once wandered in wide, lazy curves, spilling into fields, feeding reeds and birds in quiet pockets of shade. Beautiful, yes. Predictable, no. So he drew a straight line on a map. He ordered concrete walls, steel reinforcements, strict channels. The river, he decided, would go here, and only here. At first it seemed like a triumph. The water rushed forward in a neat, narrow corridor. Floodplains became parking lots. The city applauded his efficiency. He felt proud, useful, in control. The river no longer wasted time meandering. It moved faster. It obeyed. Then the storms grew stronger. Rain fell harder. With no room to spread, the same river became a force he had not planned for. The water slammed against the walls. It rose higher, faster. When it leapt the banks, the flooding was worse than before, because there was nowhere soft for the excess to go. What had looked like safety became a hidden risk, concentrated and fierce. You might recognize this pattern in a quieter place. Your own day. You wake with a calendar already full, every hour spoken for, messages checked before you sit up, emotions scheduled, in a way. This is when I must be kind. This is when I must be productive. This is when I must finally relax. Relationships managed like projects. Even rest becomes another item to accomplish. For a while, it works. You feel efficient, organized, slightly superior to your past, more chaotic self. But then a small storm comes, a harsh email, a child's tears, a tired body. Because there is no slack, no gentle bend, the inner river has to race. Anxiety rises quickly, thoughts crash against the concrete of your plans. The very grasping for control makes everything feel less safe. 1 year after another severe flood, the engineer stands by the swollen channel and feels something give way inside. Not a wall this time, an idea. What if the river knows something I do not? He begins, quietly, to undo his own work. A section of concrete comes down. A small wetland is allowed to form. A bend is restored. The river slows, spreads, sinks into the ground. In big storms it still swells, but now there are places to receive the excess. The violence softens. The whole valley breathes. The river was always capable of a safer path, when it could move in its own way. Your mind is like this. Your heart is like this. You may already sense the hint here. The inner river also knows how to meander back toward peace. In the next part, we will listen as Lao Tzu shows how to gently remove some of those inner walls and how to trust the Tao's current in the most ordinary moments of your day. Lao Tzu now turns a gentle lantern toward a very human habit. We say we want to float with the river, yet our hands are tight on the reins. We keep trying to steer every current, every wave, every splash. The illusion is simple. Control feels like safety. When you feel uncertain, the mind leans forward. It plans, it manages, it rehearses, it checks. For a moment there's a sense of order, as if you have pushed the world into place by sheer effort. Notice where this shows up in your own ordinary evening. You tell yourself you will rest, but you keep checking messages late at night, just in case someone needs something, or something goes wrong. You lie in bed and rehearse tomorrow's conversation with your boss, or your partner, or your child, editing every line as if the right script could guarantee the right outcome. You replay a mistake from years ago, watching the scene again and again, as if enough reruns could finally change the ending. Sometimes, the grasping turns toward other people's faces. You say something in a meeting, then spend the next hour quietly monitoring every reaction, scanning for the smallest sign of disapproval. You send a simple text, then check 3 times to see if they have read it yet. You try to control not only what you do, but what everyone else thinks and feels about what you do. And sometimes the reins are turned inward. You notice a wave of sadness or irritation and immediately go to war with it. You tighten your jaw. You argue with your own heart. You try to control your feelings with constant inner commentary, as if you could bully yourself into peace. For a short while, this seems to work. There is a thin, brittle sense of being on top of things, but underneath, the nervous system never gets to stand down. It is like a guard who is never allowed to leave the gate, always listening, always ready, never fully resting. Over time, this constant readiness becomes its own kind of suffering. Lao Tzu offers a different image. He speaks of the best leader as one who guides quietly from behind, whose presence is so light that when the work is done, the people say, "We did it ourselves." This is influence without grasping, direction without force. He suggests that the same can be true inside your own life. When you loosen control, you often gain a deeper kind of influence, because you are no longer pushing against the very currents that could carry you. When we loosen our grip, the body remembers how to soften, the breath remembers how to deepen, the mind remembers how to widen around each moment instead of squeezing it. For now, you do not need to drop every rein. choose just one small place to experiment. Tomorrow, perhaps you check your messages a little less, or you let one conversation go unrehearsed, or you notice a feeling and give it 5 extra breaths before you try to fix it. Only 5% less control, a tiny shift. As we move on, Lao Tzu will show how this small experiment can grow, how the hand that loosens a little today may one day open completely and discover that the river was carrying it all along. So let us try this together, not as an idea, but as a felt experiment. We will simply loosen the hand a little more from the inside. Imagine that there is a soft rope running through you. It begins at the crown of your head, passes through your throat and chest, and settles deep in your belly. Along this rope are small knots. Each knot is a worry, a tight place of grasping, a little place where the mind says, "This must not go wrong." The rope is ordinary, like something you might find in a garden shed, yet it carries the whole story of your day. Now, bring to mind one concern, not all of them, just one. Perhaps it is a conversation you are afraid to have, a bill you are not sure you can pay, a decision that seems to split your future in two. Let it appear in your awareness and then gently ask, where does this live in the body? Do you feel it as a weight in the chest, a clench in the jaw, a swirl in the stomach? When the mind pulls on the worry, it tightens around it, and the knot hardens. Instead of following the story, bring your attention to that place in the body. Surround it with your breath. You are not fixing. You are not analyzing. With each inhale, you notice the edges of the tension. With each exhale, you invite a tiny bit of space. Picture warm water, soaking a piece of rope that has been left out in the sun too long. At first it stays stiff. Then, slowly, the fibers begin to soften. One exhale, another. The knot is still there, but the strands around it are less brittle, less sharp. You may feel only a slight melting, a small sense of relief, like loosening a belt one notch after a long day. At some point, perhaps only for a second, you notice you are not pulling on the worry. The story goes quiet. The image fades a little. In that brief pause, there is a taste of the Tao's quiet, non-grasping presence. Nothing dramatic, no thunderbolt, simply a stillness that appears when we stop disturbing it. Remember, Lao Tzu would not ask you to untie every knot tonight, but that does not mean you must let go of everything at once. Even loosening one knot changes the whole rope. The system feels it, the body knows it, the mind has one less place to circle. As we continue, we will explore what happens when you do not just soften one knot, but begin to live as if the whole rope could float in the river of the Tao. And this has a strange consequence that most people never see coming. When the rope is no longer pulled tight, something appears that was hidden the whole time. Space, room, a kind of inner emptiness that is not a loss, but a quiet gain. Lao Tzu loved this kind of emptiness. He gives a simple image. You shape clay into a bowl. You can admire the curve, the color, the skill of the potter. But the bowl is only useful because of the empty space in the middle. The clay is the form. The emptiness is the gift. We forget this. We praise the clay and overlook the space. In the same way, we praise what is full, a full schedule, a full inbox, a mind full of plans and news and opinions. We think fullness is strength. We think it proves we are needed and important. But the Tao Te Ching quietly points at the opposite. Without the empty space, the bowl cannot hold water. Without some inner emptiness, your life cannot hold peace. We are often afraid of emptiness, confusing it with loneliness or failure. So we rush to fill every gap. The spare moment in a line becomes a scroll on a screen. The quiet at home becomes background noise. The mind never gets to be an empty bowl. It becomes a crowded shelf. Think of your mental life on an ordinary day. News headlines, messages, tasks, old memories, future rehearsals, worries about health, money, relationships, all of it stacked in the mind, one thing on top of another, until there is no clear surface anywhere. In that state, even good advice cannot land. Insight has nowhere to sit. There is no open space for simple relief. Then, every now and then, something different happens. You finish a task, and for a breath or two, you forget the next one. You turn off a song, and there is a moment of bare silence before the next sound. You breathe out, and, just before the next in-breath, there is a tiny pause. That pause is the empty bowl. It is already here. As you breathe, begin to notice these small pockets of emptiness in your day. The gap between footsteps as you walk. The stillness in a room just after someone closes the door. The quiet in your chest when a worry drops away for half a second before the next one arrives. Do not rush to fill these spaces. Let them be. When we stop disturbing it, emptiness shows its other face. It becomes rest. It becomes a soft listening where you can actually hear your own life and perhaps something deeper moving underneath. As we go on, we will explore what happens when you do not treat these empty moments as accidents, but as the subtle center of the day, and how letting them gently widen can change the whole texture of how you move through the world. So let us watch what it might look like if one ordinary day became a little more like that. Not a retreat, not a perfect schedule, just a human day, lived a few degrees closer to water. Morning. An alarm rings. Habit says, reach for the phone, pull the mind into the bright, anxious world before the body has even arrived. But today, they do something very small. They leave the phone where it is. They feel the weight of the blanket, the sound of their own breathing. They let the mind float for a minute, like a leaf on a still pond, and notice that the day has already begun without any grasping. They sit up, feet on the floor, no special posture, no ceremony, simply a quiet check. How is the weather inside? Tight chest, a little dread, a list of tasks. Instead of fighting the feeling, they name it gently and stand up anyway. In the kitchen, the sink is full. Yesterday's dishes. The old pattern would say, this should not be here, and build a whole story of failure around a plate. Today they run warm water, feel the heat on their hands, and wash one bowl at a time. No rush, no self-attack. The work is the same, the texture is different. At work, the real test begins. The inbox blooms open. Near the top, a tense email, sharp and clipped. The first impulse is to hit reply, to defend, to explain. Instead, they pause, hands off the keyboard. One breath, then another. They read the message again, this time listening for what is actually being asked. The way water listens for the lowest place to flow. A simpler answer appears. Fewer words, less heat. They send that. Not every problem melts. A project still collapses. A colleague is still unfair. The body still tires in the afternoon. But now there is a tiny bit more space around each event. Instead of, this ruins everything, they notice, this is unpleasant and it is moving. Some things still need clear action. Some, surprisingly, begin to untangle on their own when they are not constantly stirred. Peace appears, or at least a small, workable quiet. Between tasks, they walk a little slower down the hallway. They feel their feet. They look out a window for 3 breaths before opening the next file. Nothing dramatic happens, yet the day does not feel like a single, breathless line anymore. It has commas. It has small pools of rest, As evening comes, they realize the world did not fall apart because they answered a bit later, moved a bit softer, let one or two arguments die on the shore. Imagine your own next day, tilted slightly in this direction, one less forced action, one more water-like pause. In the next section, we will look more closely at how to choose those small places to yield and how Wu Wei can guide even the difficult corners of your life. So let us stand together on a slightly sharper edge now, not dangerous, but unfamiliar, the cliff edge of control. We have been talking about small places to yield, one less forced action, one more water-like pause. Now the question becomes more direct. What if, just for this one evening, you stop trying to improve yourself at all? Not forever, not as a philosophy, simply as an experiment from now until the end of this listening. No fixing your life, no solving your future, no becoming more spiritual, more wise, more anything. You are not here to upgrade yourself. You are here to see what happens when the grasping hand rests in its own lap for a while. Immediately, another voice may appear, a quiet panic. If I stop pushing, everything will fall apart. If I do not hold it all together, who will? This belief sits very deep in modern culture. We are taught that every moment must be used, optimized, improved. Even our rest is often scheduled as a way to become more productive later. It is no wonder that surrender feels risky. When the nervous system has been trained to live on a cliff edge, safety feels strange. To simply lie still and listen can feel like failure. So if there is fear in you about not striving, that fear is completely ordinary. You are not alone in it. You are simply noticing the momentum of a world that is always leaning forward. Lao Tzu offers a quiet paradox at this point. When nothing is done, nothing is left undone. At first, this sounds like nonsense. Yet if you look closely, you may recognize moments in your own life when this strange order appeared. A problem that solved itself after you finally stopped meddling. A conversation that softened once you no longer tried to win it. A decision that became clear only when you stopped rehearsing every angle. This is the way of Wu Wei. The Tao Te Ching is only a few thousand characters, yet for centuries, it has been read not as a manual of effort, but as an invitation to stop disturbing the natural flow. The teaching is simple. Peace appears naturally. So, for the rest of this audio, let it be very simple. Just relax, settle in, and take a slow, deep breath. You do not need to understand every line. You do not need to remember anything. Allow the words to fall around you like evening rain on a quiet roof. You are not the manager of this experience. You are just the one who listens. You might notice small changes as you do this. The way your shoulders meet the surface beneath them. The way your jaw forgets to hold. The way a thought rises, looks for a task, and then has nothing to do. By the end of this evening, if you truly allow yourself not to strive, what new kind of relief might be waiting just beyond the last word? In the next section, we will begin to approach that question more closely. But for now, you are already standing at the edge of the answer. So let us do something a little unusual together. For a few moments, the most important part of this teaching will not be the words at all, but the space that holds them. Think of a piece of music you love. The notes matter, of course, but without the rests, without the tiny gaps where nothing seems to happen, the song would become a flat, breathless line. The Tao Te Ching is like that. Each verse is a note. Each pause after it is a rest. The power is in both. As you listen now, begin to notice what happens right after a phrase ends. Not the next idea, not the next explanation. The moment in between, the soft landing. the way your chest keeps rising and falling, even while the mind waits to be fed another sentence. You might notice the weight of the blanket on your legs, the texture of the pillow under your head, the faint hum in the room, or the quiet between sounds. Let your attention rest there for a while, as if the real teaching were hiding in those very ordinary sensations, and the words were only gentle pointers, reminding you to feel. We are so used to collecting insights and trying to carry wisdom away, like items in a bag. But this path is different. You do not have to remember every verse. You do not have to agree or disagree. You are invited instead to notice how your body responds in the pauses, when there is nothing to grasp. We think the Tao is something to understand, but it is closer than that. When you shift from thinking about the Tao to feeling the simple pressure of your hand resting on your own chest, you are already moving from concept to direct experience. It was here all along, waiting for the mind to loosen its grip and let the senses speak again. So, if your attention drifts for a while, that is welcome. If you find yourself following a daydream or floating on the edge of sleep, that is also part of the evening. The teachings can seep in like gentle rain through open soil. They do not need you to strain. In a moment, we will return to Lao Tzu's verses, but for now, simply rest in this quiet space between words, as if the silence itself were the old master, sitting beside you, saying nothing at all. Let us come back now to Lao Tzu's images. One of his favorites is very simple: the valley, the low place, the place that receives all waters because it does not try to rise. He says the great Tao is like a valley. It does not stand on a hilltop, calling attention to itself. It sinks down quietly, and so every stream finds its way there. In the same way, a person who does not need to stand above others becomes a resting place. People feel they can come to you. They feel no edge, no competition, no pressure to perform. Most of us are trained in the opposite direction. From a young age, we learn to compare, to measure, to prove. Am I right? Am I winning? Am I ahead? On the surface, this looks normal, even necessary, but inside it creates a constant whispering tension. You can feel it when you replay an argument, not because you care about truth, but because you want to be the one who is right. You can feel it when someone else is praised, and a small tightness appears in the chest. This is the mind standing on tiptoe, always a little taller, always a little strained. This is subtle aggression toward yourself and others, a quiet refusal to rest. Lao Tzu's humility is different. It is not self-belittling. It is not telling yourself you are small or unworthy. It is more like letting the shoulders drop. It is relaxing the need to be special, allowing yourself to be very, very ordinary. When that happens, something surprising appears. A gentle peace, a sense of relief, as if you have been carrying a heavy costume and can finally take it off. When you let go of that grasping, you discover you were unique all along, in a quiet, unforced way. Lao Tzu often describes the best leader as one who stays behind. They support from the rear, like a valley supporting the mountains. They give credit away. They arrange things so that when the work is done, people say, "We did this ourselves." There is power there, but it is soft power, almost invisible, like groundwater moving under the surface. You may know someone like this. In a meeting, they listen more than they speak. When they do speak, it is simple and clear. They do not need to win the room. Strangely, this makes others relax. The social air becomes less sharp, more human. Harmony often appears on its own. Bring to mind one upcoming interaction. It could be a conversation with family, a message you need to send, a difficult colleague. Now imagine that, in this one moment, You choose to go low. You listen a little longer. You soften your tone. You assert a little less. Notice how that feels in your body. Perhaps the jaw loosens, the breath deepens, the belly softens. You are not losing ground. You are becoming like the valley, finding your strength in the low, quiet place. In the next section, we will see how Lao Tzu extends this image even further into the mystery he calls the valley spirit, the inexhaustible source at the heart of all things. You are already close to the valley now. You have felt how softening the jaw and belly can quiet the inner storm. Let us go one step further into this low, quiet place and look at something that often pulls us back up into tension: the need to be right. Let a deep breath fall out on its own. Then, gently, bring to mind a recent disagreement. It might have been spoken out loud, or it might have stayed as a private argument in your head. Perhaps it was with a partner, a colleague, a stranger online. Choose one moment when you felt that strong inner push. I am right. They are wrong. Stay with that scene. Notice how you were holding your body. Was the throat tight, as if words were pressing to get out? Was there heat in the face or behind the eyes, a kind of inner glare? Maybe the fists or jaw were clenched, or the stomach felt like a knot. Listen for the rapid inner dialogue, rehearsing comebacks, collecting evidence, replaying what they said and what you should have said. When the mind turns into a courtroom, the whole body becomes the witness stand. Every muscle leans forward. Every thought is called to testify. There is grasping at identity, the good one, the reasonable one, the one who sees clearly. And with that grasping, the natural peace of this ordinary moment is covered over, as if by a loud, busy trial. Now, just for a moment, imagine something different. Imagine letting the other person be right, or, if that feels like too much, imagine simply letting the question remain unresolved. No verdict today, no final judgment. As you picture this, soften your shoulders by a small amount. Soften the tongue in the mouth. Let the hands uncurl. You may notice a very quiet shift. The case is still there, but the judge has stepped out of the room. The ego may protest. It may say, "This is weak. This is dangerous." Yet underneath that protest, there can be a subtle relief, like taking off a heavy coat you forgot you were wearing. You do not build the ease. You uncover it. Feel how the breath moves more freely when you're not trying to win. Feel how the heart has more space when it is not defending a fixed image of me. This is a small, lived taste of Taoist humility, going low like the valley, allowing yourself to be beneath the argument, not above the other person. Lao Tzu would say, a different kind of strength appears, one that does not depend on victory. In the next section, we will follow this strength down into the valley spirit itself and see what waits in a place that never needs to win at all. That strength that does not need to win has a twin. Lao Tzu points to it again and again. He calls it softness, yielding, non-resistance. The paradox is simple. When you stop fighting what is already here, something in you becomes strangely powerful. Non-resistance is often misunderstood. We think it means giving up, agreeing with everything, becoming a doormat for life. But this is not the teaching. Non-resistance begins one step earlier, in a quieter place. It means first dropping the inner fight against the fact that, in this moment, things are as they are. When something unpleasant appears, the mind usually adds a second layer of refusal, and that is where much of the suffering lives. Pain happens, and then we tense, protest, argue with reality. Think of physical pain, a headache, a tight back, a sharp knee. Notice what happens when you resist it. The jaw clenches, The breath becomes shallow. The mind says, "This should not be happening." The pain is one thing. The struggle around it is another. Together, they multiply. Now imagine a different experiment. You feel the same ache, but this time you soften a little. You let the shoulders drop. Bring the breath down into the belly. You are not pretending it feels good. You are simply allowing the sensation to be exactly what it is, without adding should and should not. Often, the pain becomes more workable. Sometimes it even lessens, not because you forced it away, but because you stopped squeezing it. The same is true with emotions. Sadness arrives. Fear arrives. Anger flares up like sudden weather. If we resist, we tighten around the story. We replay the insult. We rehearse the disaster. We build a storm inside the storm. But if you let the emotion be felt as simple sensation in the body, warm in the face, pressure in the chest, flutter in the stomach, it begins to move on its own. Lao Tzu would say, "The soft overcomes the hard." Water does not argue with the rock. It meets it, feels its shape, and quietly finds a way around. When you meet difficulty with inner yielding instead of rigid opposition, you are like that water. Nothing whatsoever should be clung to, not even the idea that you must feel a certain way right now. The mind has its own tendency toward balance, the way a pond clears when no one is stirring the mud. In the next section, we will not only talk about this, we will turn toward a real emotion or thought pattern moving in you now, and walk, step by gentle step, into a direct experience of non-resistance itself. So now we will do that together, not as an idea, as an experiment in your own nervous system. Let the out-breath be a little longer than the in-breath. Nothing to achieve, nothing to perform. You are simply going to meet what is already here. First, notice what emotion is most present in this moment. It might be obvious, like a tight worry or a clear sadness. It might be very small, like a faint restlessness, a hint of boredom, a thin film of dullness over the mind. Or perhaps there is a simple, quiet calm. Whatever appears first, let that be enough. Now, gently ask, where is this in the body? Do not think too hard. Let the attention drift to the place that quietly volunteers itself. Perhaps it is a weight in the chest, a buzzing behind the eyes, a knot in the stomach, a slight pressure in the throat. Wherever it is, rest your awareness there, the way a bird settles on a branch. Begin to describe it inwardly without using the words good or bad. Is it warm or cool, sharp or diffuse, still or moving? Does it have a shape, like a stone, a cloud, a small storm? Does it pulse, flutter, press, or hum? This is how we let go of the story and come close to the simple truth of sensation. Usually, we meet this feeling with grasping or resistance, but tonight, we will try something softer, closer to the Taoist way of non-forcing. Imagine that around this sensation there is space, a wide, clear sky around a single cloud. The body is that sky. The feeling is that cloud. You do not have to move it. You do not have to fix it. You simply allow it to float where it is, changing as it wishes, under a very patient sky. Over several breaths, you may notice the edges of this sensation begin to soften, or it may shift, move, or even grow more intense for a while. Let all of that be allowed. The important part is not what the cloud does. The important part is that the sky does not panic. Keep some of your attention in the sensation and some in the simple knowing of it. That open, quiet knowing is like the Tao itself. It holds everything. It is not in a hurry. This knowing has its own natural peace, the way water settles when it is not stirred. The awareness that is noticing this feeling right now is untouched by the feeling, the way a mirror is never stained by what it reflects. Taoist and Zen teachings point again and again to this, the quiet, ever-present background of experience. In a moment, we will test how this same spacious awareness meets a much stronger inner storm, and what appears when the wind really begins to rise. When the inner wind rises, it usually rises in relationship. A look, a tone, a small comment. Suddenly the calm mirror feels very personal. This is where Lao Tzu turns from the quiet of the mountains toward the messiness of human hearts and offers a very different way to lead and to care. He says the best leader is barely known. The work is done, the change has happened, and people look around and say, "We did it ourselves." This sounds almost wrong to our ordinary ears. We are used to the leader at the front of the room, the parent with the plan, the person who explains, reminds, corrects, and then explains again. We think care means constant shaping, constant improvement. But the Tao suggests something softer. In our grasping to help, we often slide into control. We micromanage the small details. We rush in to rescue before anyone has a chance to find their own strength. We subtly steer conversations so that others agree with our view, and then quietly call this support. The intention may be kind, but the effect is tight. Others feel watched instead of trusted. Wu Wei in relationships is like loosening the fist around another person's life. You still act, you still speak, but the action is clear and simple, and then you let go of how it is received. You offer your view once instead of 3 times. You say what boundary matters, and then you stop arguing with their reaction in your head. There is a strange relief in this. You notice that peace does not depend on them understanding you perfectly. Imagine a parent at bedtime. The child is restless, full of energy and protest. One way is to lecture, threaten, bargain, hover at the door. Another way is quieter. The parent sets a gentle, firm container. Lights out at this time. One story, then sleep. They read slowly. They breathe. They model calm. Then they leave the room and actually trust the child's natural capacity to grow into this rhythm. They do not stand outside listening for every rustle. They do not rehearse tomorrow's argument. They let the night hold what they cannot. Or think of a manager. Instead of checking every email, they offer a clear vision, a few simple priorities, and a tone of steady ease. They answer questions, then step back. The group often organizes around that quiet confidence. People discover they were more capable than they thought. The leader is present, but not pressing. Let one relationship come to mind. Not the hardest one, just an ordinary place where you tend to lean in a little too far. For the next small interaction there, you might experiment with 1 shade less control and 1 shade more trust. Maybe you wait a few extra seconds before replying. Maybe you soften your tone by just 5%. The Taoist teaching is that others, like you, have a natural movement toward balance when they are not being pushed and pulled. In a moment, we will look at what happens when that trust is tested by real conflict, and how the Tao responds when anger and blame begin to surge. And yet, even when conflict softens on the outside, there can still be a quiet war inside, not with other people now, but with an idea, the idea of who you are supposed to be. Lao Tzu keeps pointing to this, without ever using our modern words for it. He keeps asking, very gently, who is the one you are trying so hard to protect? In ordinary life, we protect our roles: worker, partner, friend, the reliable one, the funny one, the introvert, the achiever. Each one is like a costume you put on in the morning. It can be warm and useful, like a good coat in winter. It lets other people recognize you. It helps you move through the day. When you cling tightly to any one costume, you begin to feel you must never take it off. The good worker must never be tired. The caring partner must never be annoyed. The calm spiritual person must never feel rage. Identity becomes a kind of armor you are not allowed to remove, even when it starts to pinch. Over time, this grasping at a fixed self creates pressure. You may feel you are always auditioning for your own life, always checking whether you are living up to the label. Anxiety grows, self-criticism grows. Every small failure feels like a threat, not just to a role, but to your right to exist as you imagine yourself. Lao Tzu offers a different image. He speaks of the sage as an uncarved block, simple, whole, not yet cut into pieces and turned into tools or decorations. When you are like the uncarved block, you are not forced into one shape. You can respond freshly to each moment instead of performing a fixed character. There is great peace in that. For a moment, imagine one identity you carry strongly. Perhaps it is the responsible one or the sensitive one. Now imagine hanging it up on a hook by the door, the way you might hang a coat when you come home at night. You are not throwing it away. You are just setting it down. Notice what remains. Thoughts still move. Sensations still arise. The room is still here. Awareness is still quietly knowing all of this. That simple knowing has no label on it. It is not introvert or extrovert, success or failure. It is like clear space. There is a natural ease. In the next part, we will see how this label-free awareness meets real praise and blame, and how the Tao moves when your image in other people's eyes begins to waver. So let us try something even quieter, even more radical. For the length of this evening, you are gently invited to stop being anyone in particular. Not forever, just for now. For the next hour, what would it be like if you did not have to be productive, or kind, or wise, or funny, or strong? If you did not have to improve, impress, heal, or figure anything out, but could simply exist, the way a stone exists in a river, or a cloud exists in the sky. In our world, this is almost unthinkable. From the moment you wake, the questions circle. Who are you? What do you do? What have you achieved? Even in rest, the identity machine hums in the background, updating the story of you. But you can pause the story without destroying it. Lao Tzu offers a strange comfort here. He does not say, become someone even more special. He leans the other way. He praises the valley, not the mountain. The uncarved block, not the polished statue. The less we insist on being something, the more room there is for a quiet fullness to appear. Think of how tiring it is to constantly be a role, the capable one, the caring one, the one who always knows what to say. These are not wrong. They are just heavy when they never come off. Tonight, as you listen, you might imagine lying down and, in your mind, placing each role on a simple shelf beside the bed. Your work self, your family self, your spiritual self even. Each one set down with respect, as if you were taking off well-used coats at the end of a long winter day. They will not vanish. They will still be there in the morning, if they are needed. For 1 hour, they simply do not have to perform, not even the effort to be the one who is finally relaxed. Just relax, settle in and take a slow, deep breath. Notice what it is like to not be measuring yourself against any standard at all. When the labels rest on the shelf, what remains in the bed? There is breathing, there is simple awareness, there is a body, warm and alive, held by gravity. There may be thoughts wandering around, slightly confused that there is no job to do. There may be a shy sense of relief. In this roleless space, you may find a different kind of rest. Not the rest of collapsing after a battle, but the rest of realizing there is no battle in this moment. a softer way of relating to yourself can appear on its own. You may discover that you are still here, even when you are not being anyone. In the next part, we will let this anonymous awareness meet real praise and blame again, and see how the Tao moves when the old costumes return to your shoulders. Before we let praise and blame back into the room, let us do something a little unusual together. Instead of trying to understand the next words, you are invited to stop understanding them. Just for a few minutes, let the meaning be less important than the music. Soften your eyes, or close them if that feels safe. From here on, you do not need to remember anything. There will be no test at the end. Begin by feeling the simple fact that there is sound. My voice appears. It vibrates in the air. See if you can notice where it lands in your body. Perhaps in the chest, like a small drum being tapped. Perhaps in the belly, like a quiet ripple in a pond. Perhaps in the hands or feet, as a faint hum you had been too busy to feel. Let the words wash over you the way rain sounds on a roof. You do not follow each drop. You do not keep a list. The rhythm is enough. The rise and fall, the pauses, the small changes in tone. This is listening with the body, not the mind. Notice your chest. Does it subtly lift and fall with the cadence? Does it tighten or loosen as the voice grows softer? Notice your belly. Is it held, or is there a little more ease there now? Notice your limbs, the weight of them, the quiet warmth in them, as if they were stones resting at the bottom of a clear stream. You are allowed, in this moment, to let the mind grow slightly blurry, not sharp, not busy, a little drowsy even, like a cat half dozing on a windowsill, eyes almost closed, yet somehow aware of every movement in the room. The body listens. The body knows when we stop disturbing it. If you keep trying to grasp every idea, the teaching stays on the surface. But when you let go of grasping, when you stop chasing meaning, the images and rhythms can slowly sink into the heart on their own, the way water finds its way into dry soil without being pushed. The Tao Te Ching was not written as a rule book. It is more like a series of small paintings and gentle drum beats. Short verses, simple pictures, a valley, a newborn child, water flowing around a stone. Over time, these shapes and sounds begin to tilt the heart toward softness, toward humility, toward a quieter trust in the ordinary flow of things. If all that happens tonight is that you feel a little softer inside your ribs, a little more spacious behind the eyes, that is already enough. That is success. When we return to praise and blame, we will let this softer body listening stay with us and see how the Tao moves through real words and real reactions without losing this quiet animal awareness. So we keep this soft animal awareness and we turn it towards something very simple. Lao Tzu praises the person who eats plain food, wears simple clothes, and lives in a modest dwelling, not as a saint on a hill, not as someone better than others, simply as someone who is free. In the Tao Te Ching, this simplicity is not a moral pose. It is a practical teaching. If your happiness depends on rare flavors, special fabrics, and impressive rooms, your peace is fragile. If you can be content with rice and vegetables, a worn but comfortable shirt, a small clean space, then your joy is easier to satisfy. You do not have to grasp so much. You do not have to defend so much. Endless wanting keeps the mind in constant motion. Objects, experiences, even self-improvement goals form a moving target. As soon as one is reached, the mind quietly asks, "What next?" It compares, measures, ranks. It checks who has more, who seems happier, who is further ahead. The result is a subtle, ongoing tension, as if your life were always slightly behind schedule. Think of a very ordinary evening. You sit down for a moment of rest and open your phone. You scroll through images of other people's lives, vacations, renovated kitchens, perfectly lit dinners, bodies that seem more toned, minds that seem more disciplined. You were perhaps fairly at ease before the scrolling began. After a few minutes, there is a faint sense of lack, a quiet urgency to catch up, to fix, to upgrade. Nothing outside you has actually changed. Your room is the same, your body is the same, but the inner climate is more restless. Lao Tzu would say, notice what you are feeding. Simplicity, in this sense, is not only about owning fewer things. It is about choosing fewer inputs and fewer desires in each moment, so that the mind has room to rest. The simple meal tastes richer. The plain shirt feels softer. The modest room becomes spacious enough. Quietly, choose one small desire to set down for a single day, not as punishment, not as a test of willpower, as an experiment in spaciousness. Perhaps you do not check the online shop you usually browse. Perhaps you let the thought, I must improve myself tonight, rest on the shelf until tomorrow. For one day, you let this be literally true about that one desire. You watch what happens in the empty space it leaves behind. Does a small relief appear? Does boredom come and then soften into calm? In the next section, we will take this further and ask a more unsettling question. If wanting less brings such peace, why does part of us still cling so fiercely to more? If wanting less brings such peace, why do we cling so hard to more? Instead of answering with more ideas, let us visit a quieter place. For a few moments, imagine your mind as a small, quiet room. The room is simple. 4 walls, a window with soft evening light. Along the walls are shelves, and on those shelves sit the objects of your inner life. Each object stands for something you carry: a worry about money, a project at work, a hope for praise, a fear of being left out, an old resentment that has gathered dust but has not been moved. You do not have to clear the whole room, not tonight. When we try to throw everything out at once, the grasping becomes stronger and the mind tightens. So instead, you choose one shelf, only one. The way Lao Tzu might suggest, one small, almost ordinary step, in harmony with your actual capacity in this moment. See that shelf in front of you now. Notice the shapes and colors of what is stored there. Perhaps there is a bright, sharp object that represents a future plan you keep rehearsing. Perhaps there is a heavy stone that stands for a comparison with someone else's life. Perhaps there is a thin, brittle box that holds an old argument you still replay. Gently, you reach out. You take one object in your hands, feel its weight, sense how long you have been carrying it. Then, without drama, you place it into a simple wooden box on the floor. You are not destroying it. You are not pretending it never mattered. You are just letting it rest, somewhere that is not your hands. Now another, maybe that old resentment, maybe that fantasy of finally proving yourself. One by one, a few items move from the crowded shelf into the box. For this short time, you let that ancient teaching be true about these few things. Not forever, just now. As you step back, notice what has changed. The shelf is not empty, but there is space between the objects. More wood than weight, more light than clutter. The whole room feels a little more breathable. The lines are clearer. Your inner air moves with more ease. You walk to the center of the room and sit down on the floor. You do not fix anything. You do not solve your life. You simply exist here in this bare, quiet center, without holding all those items at once. Feel the relief in that release. Here is the small pattern interrupt. The box of worries is still in the room, but you are not touching it. Life is still life. Responsibilities remain, yet something in you is already lighter. Lao Tzu might smile at this. Want less? He whispers, not by force, but by gently putting down what is extra, one shelf at a time. Know that you can return to this room whenever you like, before sleep, in the middle of a tense meeting, while standing in line at the store. You simply remember the shelves, choose one, and move a single object into the box. Over days and years, this becomes a quiet art, carrying less, desiring less, discovering that peace was waiting in the empty spaces all along. In the next section, we will look more closely at that box on the floor and ask a subtle question. When you put something down inside, where does it actually go? And who are you when you are not the one who carries it? So now we have a box on the floor. Something has been put down. The question of where it goes is subtle, but before we can answer it, Lao Tzu asks us to notice something even more simple. Nothing in this world holds anything forever. Not the hand, not the mind, not even the sun. Day does not cling to itself. Night does not apologize for arriving. The tide comes in, then goes out, and not once does the ocean feel guilty for withdrawing. Your own breath knows this rhythm perfectly. It rises, it falls, it pauses. It does not try to be on all the time. The breathing finds its own quiet wisdom. Modern life asks you to be like a sun that never sets, always available, always productive, always positive. It promises security and worth if you can just keep shining without rest, as if winter were a personal failure and stillness a kind of laziness. Lao Tzu looked at the mountains and saw another story. Snow gathers, snow melts, streams swell, then shrink. A field is planted, then left fallow. Not even growth, not even progress. The teaching is quiet but firm. What returns, what lies low, what seems empty is not broken. It is preparing. Think of a tree in deep winter. From the outside, it looks like nothing is happening. No leaves, no fruit, no display. Yet inside, there is rearranging, repairing, storing. If someone judged the tree only in January, they might call it unproductive. But the tree is simply obeying a larger rhythm that already holds it. Lao Tzu calls this returning, knowing when to advance and when to withdraw, when to speak and when to fall silent, when to act with full strength and when to let go and be carried. He does not treat this as weakness. He treats it as wisdom, the way a seasoned farmer trusts the season, instead of shouting at the soil. So this evening, you are not stealing time for more important tasks. You are wintering a little. You are letting the field of your attention lie open and unplanted for a while. Feel how even the simple movement of breath has a cycle of effort and ease. You may notice that when a field rests, it does not become useless. It becomes fertile. In the same way, when you honor your own cycles, you do not lose your edge. You do not become dull or unambitious. You become clear. In the next section, we will return to that box on the floor and look more closely at this resting field of awareness itself, asking whether the one who sets things down might be made of the same quiet, rhythmic space. So for now, let us leave that question gently waiting by the box on the floor, like a lamp quietly burning in the corner. Before we look more closely at awareness itself, there is something simpler and more human we need to untangle. It is the feeling that you must earn the right to rest. Many of us carry an invisible rule. Only after enough work do we deserve to lie down in peace. If the day was not productive, the mind says, then rest is lazy. If you are not efficient, then you have not yet paid the price for ease. Lao Tzu would smile at that. The Tao Te Ching never says, first prove your worth, then you may be like the river. It points instead to what is already true in the most ordinary things. A tree does not fill out a timesheet before it leans into the evening breeze. The river does not submit a report before it slows in the wide, quiet bend. They rest because resting is part of their way. From the Taoist view, being comes before doing. You are not a machine that must justify its power usage. You are part of the same fabric as the tree and the river and the night sky. You are worthy of rest simply because you exist. Not even the idea that your value is measured in tasks completed or problems solved. As you breathe, you might notice a small tightness somewhere inside. A voice that says, "I am wasting time. I should be improving. I should be catching up." This is old grasping, old habit energy. You do not need to fight it. You can imagine that thought as a coat you have been wearing all day. For this short while, you can slip it off and hang it gently outside the room. If it wants to, it can wait for you there. It does not need to be fixed tonight. It does not need to be argued with. Even that anxious voice grows quieter on its own, like mud slowly settling in a glass of water, left untouched. For the rest of this session, there will be no demands, no calls to hustle, no list of improvements you must make before morning. Only invitations. Invitations to soften the jaw, to feel the weight of the blanket, to let the breath move the body, the way a small wind moves the leaves. You may notice a quiet paradox here. When you stop trying to force relaxation, when you let go of the project of fixing yourself, the body often unwinds more deeply. This unconditional rest, given freely, may replenish you more than any technique you have tried to master. In a moment, as we return to that box on the floor, we will explore how this same effortless allowing can open into the very nature of the one who is resting now. So, let us leave the box on the floor for a moment and turn to something even softer. Your own breathing, not as a technique to master, but as a way to remember another rhythm that has been here all along. Just relax, settle in, and take a slow, deep breath. Do not count it. Do not time it. Instead, imagine that your breath is not moving through seconds on a clock, but as waves on a quiet shore. A long, gentle wave arriving, a long, gentle wave returning. It does not hurry. It does not explain itself. It simply comes and goes. Most of us have trained the breath to obey the calendar. The chest tightens to match the pace of the day, as the mind stares at numbers and the body quietly copies them. You can step out of clock time for a few minutes and breathe with the earth instead. So again, let a breath come in, as if the tide were rising under a wide moon. Feel the ribcage gently expand, like a shoreline receiving water. Then, let the breath go, as if the tide were sliding back over smooth sand, leaving everything a little clearer, a little more simple. No deadline is pushing this tide. No notification can speed it up. As you do this for a few cycles, notice what happens in the body when it is no longer measuring itself against time. The shoulders may drop without asking permission. The jaw may soften. The stomach may loosen its grip. There can be a small but unmistakable relief, as if some inner clock has been unplugged and an older, slower rhythm is taking over. This is a Taoist move. Lao Tzu keeps pointing us back from the artificial to the organic, from what is driven by grasping to what unfolds on its own. The Tao Te Ching was shaped in a world of seasons, rivers, and mountains, not alarms and meetings. When you let your breath follow the tide instead of the timer, you are quietly returning from artificial urgency to the natural flow that was here before clocks were invented. You do not have to optimize this practice or squeeze insight out of every minute. For tonight, there is nowhere else you need to be. nothing else you need to do. This is the whole appointment. You, this breath tide, this simple room. In a moment, we will return to that plain box on the floor and see what it reveals when approached from this slower sea level of attention. So we return to that simple box on the floor and to something even more familiar. The quiet tug in the chest that says, when this changes, then I can rest. This is the pull that has followed you for years, changing costumes but never its basic shape. The pattern is almost embarrassingly ordinary. You are sure that the new phone, the promotion, the move to a different city, the right partner, the next spiritual insight will finally give you lasting peace. For a brief moment, when you get it, there is a rush, a soft exhale, a sense of relief. Then, almost before you can enjoy it, the mind has already leaned forward toward the next horizon. Lao Tzu watched this very human dance. He saw kings, merchants, farmers, all pulled by the same invisible rope of just a little more. His teaching is simple and sharp. Desire does not end by being fed. It ends by being seen. It ends by no longer being taken as a command. Imagine walking alone through a hot desert. Your lips are dry. Your feet are heavy. Far ahead, you see what looks like a shining lake. The surface glitters. The shape is clear. You feel a small surge of hope and you walk faster. But as you approach, the water shifts, thins, drifts away. It is not quite here. So you keep going. The image appears again, a little farther on. Again you walk. Again it moves. Desire is like this mirage. It looks solid. It looks close. It promises to end the thirst. Yet each time you reach it, the mind quietly moves the finish line. The room is redecorated, but now your body is the problem. The body is improved, but now your career feels wrong. The career changes, and now your mind wants a different image in the mirror of spirituality. Lao Tzu does not say, crush your wanting. He is not interested in harsh self-denial. He suggests something softer. Want less, not as punishment but as freedom. Reduce the number of mirages you obey. Let go of the belief that this next thing will finally complete you, and you discover an ease that was already here, waiting. Nothing whatsoever should be clung to, not even the hope of a perfect version of you. The mind has a natural stillness, like a pond when the wind drops. Desire may still appear on the surface, but it no longer has to drag you for miles. Let one memory come to mind, a time when you were certain, if I just get this, everything will change. Perhaps it was entering a relationship, leaving one, buying something important, reaching a certain number in your bank account, getting on a path of practice and feeling. Now I am finally serious. Notice how, after the first glow faded, the mind did not retire. It updated its list. It circled a new date on the calendar. It found a new mirage on the horizon. You might even smile, gently, at how tireless it is. The Tao Te Ching whispers another possibility. You do not have to destroy desire to be free of its spell. You only have to see the spell as a spell. In the next part of our evening, we will try something quiet and very simple. We will step, just for a few breaths, to the side of the chase and see what remains when the mirage is not in front of you. But that is not the most surprising part. The most surprising part is how familiar it feels. For a few moments, you will not need to understand anything. You will only be asked to imagine. Picture yourself walking quickly down a long straight road. On both sides, there are signs and bright displays of things you want. Objects, achievements, approval. Each one promises, just a little farther and you will finally be at peace. You move faster without quite meaning to. A better body, a cleaner house, a more impressive title, more followers, more money, more proof that you are doing life correctly. The road stretches on and on. The horizon keeps stepping back. This is how most of us live, most of the time, without even calling it grasping. It just feels like being a responsible person, keeping up. The trap is not the road or the signs, but the fact that we never stop walking. We do not test what happens if the feet become still. So, in this small experiment, you do something unusual. You let the body slow down, the steps shorten, the pace softens, until, quite gently, you come to a complete stop. Feel that stop. Feel your feet on the ground, as if the earth has risen slightly to meet you. You are still on the same road. All the signs of desire are still there, glowing and whispering. But for this moment, your attention is no longer sprinting toward them. It is resting in the simple sensation of standing here. Notice the air on your skin. Maybe it is cool on the face and warm where your clothes touch the body. Notice any faint breeze, how it moves around you without asking for permission. Listen for the sounds in this scene. Distant traffic, a bird, the soft hum of ordinary life. Feel the weight of your body being held by the ground without any effort from you. All of this is available without taking a single step. Then, a small pattern interrupt. Imagine that every sign along the road quietly switches off. No slogans, no images, just blank boards and you, breathing. The teaching is not scolding you. It is simply letting you test what remains when the fuel of the chase is removed. For a breath or two, sense what it is like to exist without moving toward or away from anything. You are on the path, but you are not chasing the horizon. It was already here, hidden under the constant leaning into the next thing. This standing still is a small taste of Taoist contentment, not the erasing of all desire, but the freedom not to be driven by it in every moment. You can still walk again. You can still choose. Yet now you have felt, in your own body, that another rhythm is possible. In the next part of our evening with Lao Tzu, we will ask Lao Tzu what it means to carry this stillness with you, even as you move through a restless world. You have already tasted that another rhythm is possible. Now Lao Tzu offers a stranger promise. In the very middle of all this moving, he says, there is a place in you that does not move, not a frozen place, not a numb place, a quiet, living center. He points to it with a simple image. Imagine a wheel turning. The outer rim spins fast. The spokes blur. Dust flies. If you only look there, the wheel seems wild and restless. But if you look at the very middle, at the hub where the axle passes through, something different appears. The wheel turns, yet that exact point is still. This is how your inner world works. Thoughts race at the edge. Emotions rise and fall. Life events come like weather. The rim is busy. It changes from hour to hour. One message on your phone, and suddenly, the whole rim feels different. Yet the awareness that knows all of this is more like the center of the wheel, open, quiet, untouched by the speed. Most of us live glued to the rim, feeling as if we are the spinning itself. Every new thought becomes an emergency. Every mood feels like a new self. We forget that there is also this other dimension, the simple knowing that notices it all. When we remember the center, there is an immediate, gentle relief. Zen and Taoist teaching do not promise a perfect life. They do not say the rim will stop. People will still speak sharply. Plans will still fail. The body will still age. Instead, they invite you to stand in a different place while all of that happens. The wheel turns, but you rest at the hub. Think of an ordinary day. You are rushing, answering messages, fixing small problems, carrying quiet worries. Then, for a brief moment, you look out a window and see the sky, or you feel the weight of your body on the chair, or you simply remember to breathe. Nothing outside has changed, yet something in the quality of the moment softens. That softening is the center showing itself. As you listen now, notice that there is a part of you that has been here from the beginning of this evening. It heard every story. It felt each wave of agreement, doubt, boredom, interest, but it was not pulled apart by any of them. That quiet hearing, that simple awareness, has remained the same. The Tao Te Ching whispers again and again that peace is already present in this aware center. The rim will keep turning. Thoughts will still appear. Feelings will still visit. When you let go, even a little, you find you can rest more often at the still point, even as the journey continues. In our next step with Lao Tzu, we will explore how this quiet center begins to guide your actions, so that your movements themselves start to feel like an expression of the Tao. As this quiet center begins to guide your actions, another question appears. What if this still point is not something you have to build at all, but something that has been here the whole time, quietly waiting under the noise? Lao Tzu keeps pointing to this. He says that the Tao is like deep water. On the surface, there can be wind, waves, even storms, but far below, the water is heavy, unmoving, at rest. We spend most of our days riding the waves, measuring the size of each one, trying to calm the storm by sheer effort. We forget to look down. When anxiety has been with you for a long time, the mind does not easily believe in an ease that is already here. So we go on striving to become calmer. We make plans. We tighten our jaw around the idea of peace. We turn relaxation into another project. It is very human. It is also very tiring. Lao Tzu's teaching is gentle, but it is also a little mischievous here, as if he is smiling and saying, "You are splashing around so hard in the pool that you cannot feel the water holding you up." He assures us that the Tao is not something to be added to your life. It is not an extra layer you have to earn, not a special state you have to hold on to. It is what remains when we stop disturbing the water, like a pond that clears on its own when the mud is no longer being stirred. Your own depth begins to show when grasping softens, even a little. Think of an ordinary moment. You are washing dishes or waiting for a web page to load. For once, you are not rehearsing an argument, not planning your whole future, not fixing anything. For a breath or two, you simply stand there. It is not dramatic. You might almost miss it. But if you pay attention, there is a faint sense of okayness. The situation has not changed, yet something in you is not at war. In this path with Lao Tzu, we begin to look for the smallest hints of peace, the shy background sense that, in this exact moment, something is already not struggling. In our next guided reflection, we will not ask you to manufacture serenity. Instead, we will explore how to turn toward this quiet layer so you can taste it for yourself, even if only as a soft whisper behind everything else. So now, let us gently follow that whisper, not by forcing the mind to be quiet, but by becoming curious about all the layers that are here in this moment. Begin with the most obvious layer. Notice the surface of the mind, the thoughts that are chattering right now, plans for tomorrow, a memory from earlier today, a small worry circling around money, health, or a relationship. Perhaps even a faint commentary about this very practice, wondering if you are doing it right. Just let this layer be seen, the way you might watch people passing through a busy train station. You do not need to push any of it away. Lao Tzu would smile at our effort and remind us that the river keeps flowing, whether we approve of it or not. Thoughts come, thoughts go. The sky does not argue with the clouds. Now, gently shift attention downward, out of the stream of thinking and into the simple weight of the body. Feel the contact with the bed or chair, the pull of gravity, the way your clothes rest on your skin. Notice the temperature of the air on your face, your hands, any place that is uncovered. Feel the rise and fall of the breath, like a small, patient tide, moving in and out, in and out. Let the exhale be a soft, letting go, as if the body is saying, quietly, I do not have to hold so much. In this ordinary awareness of contact and breath, there's already a hint of relief. From here, we go one layer deeper still. Instead of focusing on any single sensation, begin to sense the whole field of awareness, the space in which the thoughts appear, the space in which the body is felt. Like a room that holds both furniture and sound, this deeper layer holds everything you experience without strain. Notice how this field itself is not in a hurry. It is spacious, open, unimpressed by the latest worry. Lao Tzu called this kind of quiet presence the way of nature. When we stop disturbing it, it is simply there, like the sky that remains even as clouds build and dissolve, storms rise and pass. Rest here for several breaths. No need to freeze it or make it special. Thoughts may return, sensations shift. That is all right. The background openness is still here, patient, available, asking nothing from you. We spend most of our life pressed up against the moving parts, forgetting the stillness that holds them. As you sit in this wider space, begin to wonder, very gently, what happens when this quiet depth starts to guide how you move through the world. In the next part of our evening with Lao Tzu, we will take this inner sky and see how it changes the way you meet, even the smallest, messiest details of your day. So now, we bring this inner sky into one of the most ordinary, stubborn places of struggle, the simple act of going to sleep. It sounds so basic, yet for many of us, night is when the mind becomes loudest, and the wish for rest turns into another project we are secretly trying to manage and control. Lao Tzu would smile at this. Sleep is one of the clearest examples of wu wei, of effortless action. You cannot make yourself sleep. You cannot push, bargain, or argue your way into it. You can only create the conditions, then let go. When we treat sleep as a task, we step out of the Tao and back into grasping. When you try very hard to sleep, the very effort wakes you up. You start monitoring the clock. You calculate how many hours are left. You worry about tomorrow. Each new thought says, "This is important. Stay alert." The body hears this and tightens. The nervous system leans forward. Instead of sinking, you hover. Think of a night when you kept telling yourself, "I must sleep now." You shifted position again and again, adjusted the pillow, rehearsed conversations, planned the week. Nothing helped. Then, at some point later, you simply noticed the struggle, turned over, and stopped caring quite so much. You did not win a battle with your mind. You just lost interest in the fight. And sometime after that, without fanfare, you were gone. Sleep comes on its own. Lao Tzu's teaching is simple. Do what is simple. Darken the room. Cool the air if you can. Let the exhale be a little longer than the inhale. Feel the weight of your body, as if the bed were very gently receiving you, like soft earth after rain. Nothing whatsoever should be clung to, not even to the idea, "I must be asleep by this time." This moment, lying here, eyes closed, body softening, is not a failure. It is nourishment. Even if thoughts continue, the simple act of resting, of not getting up, of allowing the muscles to loosen, feeds you. The brain can idle. The heart can slow. Rest is its own quiet kind of success. So for the rest of this evening with Lao Tzu, You do not need to do anything correctly. Let this audio become a gentle river. You are not steering the boat. You are not checking the map. You are simply being carried. If you notice yourself listening very hard, trying to follow every word, that is fine. And you are also allowed to drift, to miss whole sentences, to let the meaning blur into a soft background hum. From here on, there is nothing to manage. You may fall asleep soon. You may not. Either way, you are already practicing the way of the Tao, creating simple conditions, then trusting the natural intelligence of the night. In the next part, we will let Lao Tzu guide you even more deeply into this river, so that waking and dreaming both begin to feel like movements of the same quiet, endless way. So now, as this river of words continues, you can begin to listen, as if you were already halfway in a dream, not fully awake, not fully asleep, just floating in that soft in-between, where sounds and images drift through without needing to line up neatly. Let the out-breath be a small gesture of trust. In this moment, nothing has to be solved. Lao Tzu is not giving you homework. He is more like an old friend sitting by the bed, speaking gently while your eyes grow heavy, letting each phrase be a quiet stone dropped into a still pool. In this half-dream, you do not need the teachings to make strict sense. A line about water appears, and at once you might see a river at twilight, or rain on a tiled roof, or a cup being slowly filled. You do not choose the picture, it just arrives. Then a valley is mentioned, and perhaps you glimpse a misty hollow at dawn, or the dip of your own breath in the chest. The mind is free to wander, free to associate, free to let go of control. If a verse about uncarved wood appears, and you suddenly see a block of pale timber, or a child's face, or a mountain before the road was cut, that is enough. You do not have to explain it. You only have to notice, and then allow the next image to come or not come. This soft, drifting attention is very friendly to the Tao Te Ching. It is a book of images more than arguments, a teaching of water and stone, root and branch, birth and return. It was never meant to be squeezed like a problem in a classroom. It was meant to be held lightly, turned slowly, like a small, ordinary object, in the hand that keeps revealing new shapes when we stop insisting on only one. So, if your mind wanders, let it wander. If you miss a line or a whole section, nothing important is lost. When we treat spiritual words as more tasks, the heart tightens and sleep moves further away. But the natural ease of the body begins to rise like a quiet tide in the dark. You may even choose to hear my voice now as a kind of background lullaby, not something to follow step by step, but a gentle sound behind your own breathing. If you drift off, the Tao will still be here. If you stay awake, the Tao will still be here. In the next section, we will let Lao Tzu's verses deepen this dreamlike listening, so that even the simplest words can open into a vast, peaceful night within you. So let us look back for a moment at this river we have been following, not to analyze it, just to notice how it has been carrying you. From the beginning, Lao Tzu has been pointing to something very simple and very deep. There is a way, moving through everything. The Tao is not a belief. It is the natural flow of life, the quiet order that appears when we stop pushing quite so hard. We usually think we must build peace, as if it were a project. But this teaching keeps suggesting the opposite. You do not build the ease, you uncover it. When we speak of Wu Wei, we are not praising laziness. We are remembering a different kind of action, effortless action, moving when it is time to move, resting when it is time to rest. Like a farmer who plants, waters, then trusts the seasons instead of pulling on the seedlings. Again and again, The Tao has been shown to you as water, soft, yielding, clear. We have watched water wear down stone, not by struggle, but by patience. We have sat with the image of the valley that receives all things, low and humble, yet quietly gathering every stream. We have turned the uncarved block in our hands, feeling how simple, untouched potential can be more powerful than something already hacked into a shape. We have noticed the empty bowl, useful not because of what fills it, but because of the space it offers. These are not just pretty images. They describe shifts you may already have tasted. Perhaps you have felt a small softening of control, like loosening a tight belt around the mind. Perhaps you have allowed an emotion to rise and fall without rushing to fix it, the way a valley lets the clouds pass. Perhaps you have felt your usual identity blur at the edges for a moment, and underneath all the stories, there was a quiet center, still and simple. They are gentle reminders that another way of relating to experience is possible, and that you can return to it, softly, the way you might return to the breath after being distracted. So if you have drifted in and out while listening, that too is part of the way. Notice that even forgetting is allowed. We try to force understanding and hold on to insight, and in doing so, we disturb the very peace we are seeking. When we stop disturbing it, the river of the Tao is already here, moving of its own accord. Simply staying with this journey, even imperfectly, is itself a form of Wu Wei. You are practicing trust instead of grasping, letting the words wash through like water over stone. In the next section, we will let Lao Tzu lead us a little further downstream, where this same river of images begins to touch the details of your ordinary day, gesture by gesture, breath by breath. We have already floated a long way together this evening. From the first few ripples of attention to this quieter, wider river, you have stayed, you have listened, you have let something in, and by now, you may notice that the mind and body do not feel quite the same as when you began. There might be a pleasant heaviness in your limbs. The thoughts may feel slower, softer at the edges, or even a little dull in a comforting way, like a room with the lights turned low. This is not a problem to fix. This is a sign that the nervous system is finally getting to set down some of what it has been carrying all day. Here is the gentle paradox. It can feel as if you are done, as if you have gone as deep as you can go tonight, but there is still another layer of ease available, not through effort, not through trying to meditate better, or understand more, or hold on to any particular state. The Tao Te Ching has always worked like this. It is only about 5,000 characters long, and yet people have been returning to it for more than 2,000 years. Why? Because each time you relax a little more, the same words sink to a deeper place. Awareness reveals quiet depths that were already here. So the invitation now is very simple. Just one more step, just one more bend in the river, just one more stretch of listening while you rest exactly as you are. Each extra minute you give yourself, like this, is not a luxury. It is a gift to your heart, to your breath, to the entire web of nerves that has been on alert in a world that rarely pauses. Think of it as you would think of watering a plant that has been in strong sun all day. One more cup of water does not look dramatic from the outside, but inside the soil, something loosens. Roots can breathe. In the same way, staying for a little longer lets the body and mind drink from this softness without you having to do anything special. In the sections ahead, we will not ask you to turn this into a project. We will explore how this Taoist softness can move with you into an ordinary morning, an email, a conversation, a crowded train. This is not another self-improvement plan. but a quiet remembering that even there, we do not need to cling, and you are completely free here. You may drift in and out. You may fall asleep and let the rest of these words wash through the deeper mind. You can stay awake and follow every image, or simply lie back and let go of following it all. The teaching does not mind. Stay only as long as this feels nourishing, like resting your head a little longer on the pillow before you rise. If you choose to stay, we will walk together into this next, softer layer. If you choose to sleep, the river will keep flowing without you needing to hold it. Either way, the ease is already here, waiting in this very moment to be uncovered. So let us imagine that you do decide to stay a little longer with Lao Tzu, not for a grand vow, not for a life overhaul, just for tomorrow. The mind will often say, "All right, I understand now. Tomorrow I will change everything." Wake early, meditate an hour, answer every message with wisdom, never get irritated, finally become the person you are supposed to be. That voice of grand resolution is just another form of grasping. It is the same old push, now dressed in spiritual clothes. Instead, the Tao suggests something quieter, 1 or 2 tiny experiments, so small that no one else would even notice. You might decide that tomorrow, just once before you react, you will pause for a single breath, or that you will walk a little slower on your way to the kitchen, feeling your feet touch the floor, or that you will do one ordinary task, like washing a cup, with your full attention. These shifts are meant to be almost invisible. They do not need to impress anyone. They do not even need to impress you. Their power is in the inner change of tone and pace, the way you gently turn down the volume of urgency and turn up the sense of space. Think of answering just one message tomorrow, with more spaciousness. Not all of them, just one. You read it. You feel the first wave of habit, the quick reply forming itself. Then you pause. You notice your shoulders. You soften your jaw. You let one extra breath pass through, and then you respond from that quieter place. No one may ever know, but you will feel the slight, surprising relief. Or perhaps your experiment is with feeling itself. At some point tomorrow, an emotion will rise. Annoyance, sadness, a brief fear. Instead of fixing it, improving it, or arguing with it, you allow it for a moment. You name it softly inside, like greeting a guest at the door, and you do nothing else. The feeling often shifts on its own. Another small experiment. Let one thing be imperfect. A crooked stack of papers, a slightly overcooked piece of toast, a text without the perfect wording. You see the impulse to correct, to polish, to control. You smile, just a little, and you let it be. Not even the image of yourself is always composed. Lao Tzu liked to remind us that great rivers begin as small streams. A tiny bend in a stream, repeated over miles, becomes the curve of a valley. In the same way, these almost invisible changes in how you relate to one moment can, over time, carve a very different landscape of mind. Treat tomorrow as a gentle experiment, not a test you can fail. Curiosity instead of judgment, play instead of pressure. If an experiment is forgotten, you simply begin again with the next breath. The Tao does not keep score, and as you start to taste how these small shifts feel in an ordinary day, another deeper question quietly appears, waiting for us in the next part of the journey. Treat tomorrow, then, as part of this same gentle evening. The night will pass, the light will change, but the invitation is the same. So imagine this: the alarm sounds. Before the hand reaches out, before the mind remembers the list, there's a thin, quiet space. Take one breath where you remember, even faintly, the softness of this evening. Not a grand decision, just a small, almost secret willingness not to rush. You swing your feet to the floor. Notice the contact with the ground, the slight coolness of the air. Perhaps there is a familiar ache in the body, or the weight of something unresolved. Let it be there. Let it have room. You are not required to fix your life before you stand up. A different kind of strength appears, one that does not need to prove anything. You walk to the kitchen, water fills the kettle, or coffee drips slowly into a mug. Steam rises. This is an ordinary scene, yet you allow your breath to be just a little slower, your movements just a little less sharp. We think peace is something we have to go out and get, some rare state waiting in a distant retreat. But the teaching here is simpler, not even the idea of a perfect morning. As you sit, cup in hand, picture Lao Tzu beside you, not as a stern judge, more like an old friend with kind, amused eyes. He does not rearrange your schedule. He does not demand that you renounce your email. He simply leans close from time to time and whispers, "Do less, want less, be more." You might smile, because the to-do list is still long, yet something in you loosens by a single thread. Later, a small irritation appears, a message that sounds a little sharp, a task added at the last minute. You feel the familiar tightening, the quick story of unfairness beginning to form. The habit is to react at once, to speak from the first wave. But today, in this experiment, you pause for one extra breath. That is all. One breath. In that brief space, you notice the grasping. You feel the urge to defend, to correct, to win. You do not have to pretend it is gone. You simply see it and let the sharpest edge soften before you answer. Perhaps your words become a little kinder, or you decide that no answer is needed at all. Now, a small pattern interrupt. Imagine that in the middle of the day, you completely forget all of this. You rush, you snap, you scroll without awareness. The mind might say, "I failed." Lao Tzu would not agree. He is still there at your side, as patient as a mountain. The next time you remember, even for a single breath in a hallway or at a red light, the Tao is alive in you again. This is enough. One remembered moment of softness is enough to change the flavor of a day. And as you picture tomorrow in this way, you may begin to wonder what it would be like, if not just one moment, but many moments, quietly turned in this softer direction. So let us pause here. One soft moment, after all these soft moments. The Tao Te Ching is a very short book, only a few thousand characters, yet tonight you have given it something much larger and rarer, your living attention. You have already done enough. In a world that whispers, more practice, more effort, more improvement, this is a strange sentence to hear, yet it is deeply in line with Lao Tzu's way. Wu Wei is not only about how we act in the world, it is also about how we relate to our own growth. No forcing, no pushing the river. What has been planted in you this evening will grow when it is time, not when your will demands it. Notice that you are still here. You stayed, you listened, or drifted, or doubted, or came back again and again. All of this counts. Simply showing up for an ordinary evening with these verses is already a complete practice for tonight. We think spiritual work must feel dramatic and intense, but the old master points in another direction. A single line that quietly stays with you tomorrow, a faint sense of more space around your thoughts, a tiny bit less grasping at the next task or the next notification. This is how the Tao tends to move, like water seeping into dry ground. So if part of your mind is saying, "I did not do it right, I was distracted, I should have tried harder," notice that voice with some kindness. That is just another habit of becoming, another way of trying to earn peace by effort. The teaching here is simpler and more generous. Think back, for a moment, to how your body felt when we began. The tension in your shoulders, the speed of your thoughts, the restlessness in your chest or belly. Now, without judging, sense how you feel in this moment. Maybe there is more softness. Maybe there is the same old tightness. Maybe you cannot tell. All of that is welcome. The point is not to score yourself. The point is to finally stop scoring yourself. The mind has its own way of settling. Like a pond, after the wind dies down, it clears on its own schedule. So let this evening feel complete. No extra effort needed. No last-minute insight to chase. Trust that what needed to be heard has been heard, even if you do not yet know which sentence it was. In the next part of our time with Lao Tzu, we will simply continue from this enoughness and see what else quietly reveals itself. So from this sense of enoughness, we can see the heart of the evening a little more clearly. The Tao Te Ching has not been trying to hand you peace like a prize you win at the end. It has been quietly pointing to the peace that appears when grasping, forcing, and over-identifying soften, even for a moment, even by accident. Nothing whatsoever should be clung to. Lao Tzu would agree with that line, though he might say it with an image instead of a rule. Water that does not clutch anything, a valley that receives everything. Again and again tonight, the teaching has been the same. Think back over this evening. There may have been a moment when one knot of anxiety loosened, almost without your help. You were listening to a verse about doing less, and suddenly the pressure to fix your whole life tonight eased a little. You noticed the shoulders drop. You felt a small, surprising relief, like putting down a bag you forgot you were carrying. Perhaps there was a place where you allowed a single emotion to be here instead of pushing it away. A wave of sadness, a flicker of irritation. For a breath or two, you did not argue with it. You did not make it your whole identity either. It was simply weather moving through a wide sky. The sky does not need our help to be clear. Maybe you also tasted what it is like to pause one desire chase. The mind started to run toward the next achievement, the next message, the next version of you. And then, because of a few simple words from this old book, you paused. For that single inhalation and exhalation, there was nothing to improve. Ordinary breathing became enough. These are not special states reserved for retreats or mountain caves. They are woven into the most ordinary acts of living. Walking down a hallway, washing a cup, listening to someone speak and actually being there. The quiet center you sensed is not somewhere else. It is threaded through these simple movements, like clear water running under everyday streets. So you do not need to remember every verse or concept from tonight. You do not even need to remember Lao Tzu's name. What matters is the felt memory of softness and space. The body knows it. The breath knows it. That is the part of the teaching that will stay with you. When the words have faded, the trap is forgetting this home and chasing peace as if it were far away. Grasping tightens and the view narrows, but you can simply return again and again, even for one conscious breath at a time. This quiet mind is not a distant goal. It is a home you can visit, leave, and visit again, without shame. In the next part of our evening, we will look more closely at how Lao Tzu suggests we live from that home in the middle of chaos, and what begins to change when you dare to bring this softness into places that do not yet feel soft at all. So let us give that softness one very simple shape, something you can carry into the most ordinary parts of tomorrow. Not a new project, not another thing to improve, just one breath. We forget. We leave this quiet room, and the river of emails, messages, worries, and plans sweeps us away. Habit takes over. The old grasping returns. So we need a very small, very gentle thread, that can lead you back, even in the middle of all that. The thread is this: whenever you remember during the day, take one slow breath and silently say, "Nothing to force right now." That is all. One breath, one sentence. It does not matter where you are: standing in a line, opening the fridge, about to speak in a meeting, waking in the night and reaching for your phone. At first, this might sound like a command to do nothing, to drop your responsibilities and drift. But nothing to force right now is not about stopping action. It is about releasing the extra push inside the action, the tight fist in the chest that believes everything depends on you squeezing harder. You still answer the email. You still care for the child. You still turn the steering wheel. You simply let go of the unnecessary strain wrapped around the doing. Let us try it together now. Feel the inhale arrive without dragging it in. Notice how the body knows how to breathe without your help. Let the air spread through the ribs, the belly, the back. At the top of the breath, pause very softly, not as a held tension, but as a quiet turning point. Then exhale, longer, easier. As the breath leaves, silently say inside, "Nothing to force right now." Let the shoulders drop a little. Let the jaw loosen. Let the mind's grip soften, even if the thoughts keep moving. It was already there, waiting for you to stop pressing so hard. Here is a small pattern. Interrupt. Imagine that in this moment, as you breathe out, Lao Tzu is sitting just to your left, not as a grand statue, but as an old traveler resting by the road, smiling slightly at nothing in particular. Each time you take this one breath, you sit down beside him again. The breath becomes a tiny doorway, back to the way in the middle of whatever is happening. Even if this happens only once tomorrow, that single breath is not trivial. It is a continuation of tonight's practice. One more step away from grasping, one more step deeper into the Tao. As we go on, we will explore how this same spirit of non-forcing can guide your choices, your speech, and even your ambitions, so that life begins to feel less like a battle you must win, and more like a river you can finally trust. So now, as this river of words begins to slow, we come to a very soft shore. The evening has been long and quiet. You have stayed. You have listened. Thank you for sharing this time with me and with the old patient voice of Lao Tzu, who speaks so gently to the restless parts of the mind. All through these verses, the Tao has been described in images more than in arguments. Water, valleys, uncarved wood. Each one is a reminder that you do not have to polish yourself tonight. You do not have to solve anything. It appears, little by little, when the grasping loosens and the effort to be someone special finally gets to rest. If you have not already, you are invited now to surrender more fully to rest. Let the body grow heavier, as if each limb were a stone at the bottom of a clear pool. Let the face soften. Let the jaw release. Let the breath fall gently. Nothing to fix. Nothing to hold up. If the mind wants to wander, let it wander. If it wants to fade into sleep, let it fade. All day, attention has been building a world of tasks, messages, plans, and worries, and the habit is to keep building, even in the dark. But tonight, you can quietly set down the tools. There is nothing left you need to understand, nothing left you need to accomplish. Everything that needed to be heard has already been heard at some level, even if you do not remember a single line. Think of a valley after rain. No one tells it how to receive the water. It simply allows. Your sleep can be like that. The hours ahead can be a valley, open and low, where thoughts flow in, rest for a moment, and then move on. No pushing them away, no chasing them. Or picture a piece of uncarved wood resting on a simple table. It is not trying to become a statue. It is not rehearsing its future shape. It is complete in its plainness. This is one of Lao Tzu's quiet teachings for the night. You are allowed to be unfinished and still be whole enough to sleep. As you drift, imagine yourself as water, finding the easiest path, curving around every stone. Imagine yourself as the valley, holding what comes without complaint. Imagine yourself as the uncarved wood, simple, ordinary, at peace. You are welcome to return to this space whenever you need an evening of less striving and more being. The Tao Te Ching will be here. Like a river you can step into again and again. For now, let the night carry you. Let the darkness be kind. Let go. You may have noticed, as the verses unfolded, a very simple thing. When you were just listening, not trying to grasp every idea, a quiet ease began to appear by itself. If this evening, with Lao Tzu, has supported that in you, you are gently invited to stay close to this kind of space. You are welcome to subscribe or follow, so that more long, quiet sessions like this can find their way to you without effort. No chasing, no grasping, just allowing these ordinary words to arrive in their own time, the way a river finds the sea. Sometimes it helps to remember that you are not the only one listening in the dark. There are others, scattered across cities and small towns and quiet, countryside rooms, letting these same verses wash through them. If it feels easy, you might share in the comments where you listened from and which image or line felt most soothing. Perhaps it was the valley, perhaps the uncarved wood, perhaps just the sense of being allowed to do less. You do not have to write anything wise or impressive. A simple, "from my kitchen table," or "on a late train home," is already enough. In that small way, we see that this teaching is not locked in ancient mountains. It is living in bedrooms, on buses, in hospital corridors, in all the places where a human heart quietly longs for peace. And if even that feels like too much, that is completely fine. Engagement is not an obligation here. You are not being measured. Even if you never click or comment or subscribe, your presence has already mattered. You have given your attention to stillness for a while. That is no small thing in a world that keeps asking for more. You might let this recording become a small ritual of letting go, an evening practice of doing less at the end of busy days, like turning off one extra light, like setting down one bag you do not need to carry to bed. The mind forgets again and again and begins to push the river. A simple ritual of returning, of pressing play, is a way of remembering without strain. As this session comes to a close, may your night be soft. May your rest be deep enough. May the days ahead open with a little more space, a little more trust in the quiet wisdom that is already here, waiting beneath the surface of every moment. And before we part for tonight, let us share one last, simple thing. Nothing to figure out, nothing to improve, just one breath, together. As you breathe in, imagine that somewhere, right now, another person is listening with you. Perhaps in a small apartment in a noisy city, perhaps in a quiet house at the edge of a forest. Different lives, different worries, the same breath moving in. And as you breathe out, picture that exhale joining theirs, a soft cloud of relief spreading across distance. No names, no stories, no need to know who they are. Only this ordinary rhythm of breathing in, breathing out, that all beings share. Let us do that once more. A gentle in-breath, without grasping at it. A gentle out-breath, without pushing anything away. A very quiet peace shows itself, like a lake when the wind finally settles. As you sit or lie here, Notice the subtle feeling of being part of something larger than your own thoughts. No messages, no likes, no replies, just the simple knowing that around the world, at any given moment, countless people are pausing, breathing, letting go for a heartbeat. It is a small thing, yet it carries a strange, tender power. This shared stillness is also a teaching, many forms. One underlying silence, a tired parent closing their eyes for half a minute in the kitchen, a nurse standing at a window between patients, a student staring at the night sky over a crowded street. Different stories on the surface, but underneath, the same quiet ground. The Tao points to that ground. It does not ask you to believe in it. It simply invites you to feel how, in this very moment, you are already resting in something larger than your plans and fears. You remember, even for a breath, to soften your grip on the moment. Now, for a few moments, we will let the words grow thin. You may keep your attention on the breath, or on the weight of your body, or on the soft sounds around you. Nothing to get right, just a small island of silence. When you are ready, you can drift into sleep, letting this quiet carry you. Or you can slowly return to your life, eyes open, feet on the floor, bringing with you a faint echo of this shared stillness. Because the real evening with Lao Tzu does not end here. It begins in what you do with the very next small, ordinary choice you make. So as this evening with Lao Tzu comes to a close, one last teaching quietly appears. It is simple. It is easy to overlook. There is no single correct way to live the Tao. The book is short. The images repeat. Water, valley, uncarved block. Yet the way those images move through you will never be exactly the same as through anyone else. Your softness will not look like your neighbor's. Your simplicity will not look like the old sage in the mountains. Your way of not forcing will be shaped by your body, your history, your very ordinary day. We often imagine there is a secret standard somewhere, one perfect version of calm, one approved way to let go. But the Tao Te Ching does not command belief. It offers images and paradox, then steps aside, not even to an idea of what a Taoist life should look like. So you are invited to trust something quieter, the small impulses toward ease that arise in the middle of your real life. You feel the urge to answer one more message late at night, and another, softer impulse whispers, "Close the screen." You notice tension in your voice, and something in you suggests, "Speak a little more slowly." You feel the pull to argue, and at the same time, a faint willingness to stay silent for one more breath. These are not grand visions. They are tiny bends in the river of habit. When you follow them, even once in a while, you are already walking in the Tao. It has been here the whole time, like water under a thin crust of ice, waiting for you to simply allow it. Of course, you will forget. We all do. Old patterns will return. You will grasp again, rush again, push the river again. This too belongs. In this teaching, struggle is not a failure. It is simply another movement of the way, another wave rising and falling in a larger sea. So when you notice you have wandered, you do not need drama. You do not need to scold yourself or start over from the beginning. You can just return gently. One slower breath, one unclenched jaw, one small choice, not to add that extra weight of self-judgment on top of everything else. You come back, kindly, again and again, until coming back feels as natural as drifting off. Wherever you go from here, may a trace of this softness stay with you. If you are moving towards sleep, may it be like sinking into a deep, clear lake. Your thoughts floating on the surface while you rest below. If you are moving into tomorrow's tasks, may your actions be just a little more like water, finding the open spaces instead of attacking the walls. May you feel a little more like the valley, low and receptive, not needing to stand on tiptoe to prove your height. May you feel a little more like the uncarved block, simple, sufficient, not yet carved into roles and performances before the day even begins. Your path will be your own. Your pace will be your own. The Tao will meet you where you are. So for now, we will end here. The words stop. The way continues. Rest well. Go quietly. Good night.